I think it will just be good wicket. There's no grass on it, so there won't be.
Cricket brings people together, and IPL is a worthy celebration of the same. It was not long ago that we saw Mumbai Indians lift the title for the record fifth time in the UAE. And here we are only a few days away from start of yet another season of the Indian Premier League. Today on the ICN Cricket Network, International Cricket Network ICN 360, we discuss the recently concluded auction for the 2021 season and closely look at each and every team, their combinations and possible playing 11s. But first, allow me to welcome the CEO and founder of ICN 360 and our expert analyst, Yash Khandor. Hello, Yash.
Hey, Sumedh, how are you? Thank you for the warm welcome and a lot of titles that you gave me. But yeah, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, I'm great. But so IPL has a tagline of where talent meets opportunities. So what do you think do we need to expect from IPL this year?
That's a very interesting question. And like you said, like IPL always mentions that where talent meets opportunities, IPL is very nicely framed as the carnival of cricket, right? Whether it's just in India or across the globe. While IPL has always been a phenomenon, whether it was back in 2008, 2009 when it started, or through all these years, I think in this year, in the era that we are living in with all the pandemic around, I think IPL has a greater role to play. We saw what IPL could actually do when we had the IPL in the UAE, despite it being away from the country, away from all the fans, empty stadiums. It still created that sense of positivity. It basically brought smiles to billions of people in India and across the globe. So that's the power of IPL. I'm looking forward to a greater material impact now, that hoping that IPL will actually happen in India and we'll probably have fans in the stadiums, not to full capacity, probably like 50%, but that's still a lot. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. So so very put up, the grim on the face that was there for most of us in the lockdown, it just seemed to vanish once IPL started, right? So that's what cricket does, that's what sports does to all of us. Right. So today we are to discuss the IPL auction that were recently concluded, and I wouldn't take much time, but to straight jump into it. Overall, how do you think the auction fared before we move on to team specific rules?
Sure. So the auction was pretty interesting. I mean, they called it a mini auction. It was a mini auction in the sense that only 57 players technically got sold in the auction, but still there were 145 crore rupees that were spent. So it's never mini when it comes to IPL. Nothing is mini. It's everything is magnanimous, and that's what the IPL is. Despite me being like a purist of the game who gets high on like good test match cricket, I cannot deny the fact that IPL has its own flair to it, and that's what brings everybody in India together these days when it comes to cricket. So yeah, coming to the auction, I think it was good. A lot of teams came with very clear mindset in a sense that they knew what they wanted. There were some teams which had a large purse. So I don't know if the mini auction helped them considering they had so much money, but there were a few interesting picks. I know there were a few or even a lot of hearts broken, I would say, considering only 57 players got picked. But all in all, an interesting auction. And I think it was worthy enough for all of us to get together here and talk more about it.
That is correct. So you said that maybe money played a role in its part, but I am sure it did seem like a blessing to a few players who are like millionaires today. So anyways, not moving forward directly with the Delhi Capitals. It's an interesting choice, right? The Delhi team with their combination that they have overall. The choice of the option of having Steve Smith at the top. Maybe someone like a Billings as a spare wicketkeeper for carry. Then we also had Tom Curran, who's a worthy all-rounder, and we have already seen him what he's capable of. So they have got their choices covered, aren't they?
They have, and I think you're right. Like you mentioned, Billings came in for carry. I think Tom Curran is basically picked in as a backup for Stoinis, just in case something happens to him. I know Stoinis is more of a batting all-rounder. Curran is more of a bowling all-rounder, but still he gives you that all-rounder option. Steve Smith, I mean, that was the big talk of the town. There were some very controversial statements I was looking at recently from senior Australian cricketers saying, oh, I won't be surprised if Steve Smith doesn't show up. I don't think that's what's going to happen. and the dressing room atmosphere is extremely important when it comes to competitive level cricket like the IPL is. With Ricky Ponting being in there, I think that will be taken care of, considering an Aussie can take care of another Aussie, I guess. But with Steve Smith, I think RCB played a crucial role here as well. I would like to mention them. I just recently saw a video of Mike Hessen that was leaked on Instagram or somewhere, where they were talking about their pre-auction strategies. And if you look at what Mike Hessen said, he was more like, oh, you know what? I want to go for Steve Smith, but we don't really need him because we want somebody who can bowl. But then, so he said, okay, we'll go in and get out quickly. So that's what they did. They put in the first bid, they got the Delhi Capitals to counter bid, and then they got out. And then I don't like to say it for the player of Steve Smith's caliber, but Delhi Capitals got stuck with Steve Smith. But now coming to Delhi Capitals, I don't think it's a bad pick. Considering the kind of players they have, like with Shreyas Iyer, who can tong the ball big, they have the Hetmeyers and the Rishabh Pants. If Steve Smith plays in that number 3 role, he can be more than handy if everybody's defined a role. So it all depends on how your top playing 11 will be. And with the four foreign player policy, they cannot get rid of the Rabadas, Northies, and then, yeah, those are the 2 main ones. And then Stoinis, 3. So 3 are fixed. It's the 4th foreign player slot, which will probably rotate between Hetmeyer versus Smith, depending on what they want. Now, last year, we saw Prithvi Shaw had a completely bloomer of a tournament. If that happens again, if you play Rahane at the top, Steve Smith doesn't find a place, because you cannot have 2 players with very similar, I wouldn't say abilities, but very similar style of play in that lineup in a T20 game. So unless they want to open with Marcus Stoinis, which will be interesting, Basher at one end with Shikhar Dhawan, and then you have Steve Smith as the anchor at number 3, and then followed by Pant and the other Indian players. So it's going to be interesting, but I think they have got their bases covered.
Right, and also they now have the replacement of Umesh Yadav in case any of the Indian seam bowlers are injured. So,
absolutely, I think that was a great pick. That was a great pick for the price that Umesh Yadav went for. A lot of RCB fans were happy that Umesh went away. I don't like that, but with Umesh in home conditions, I think he can be more than handy if Delhi need him to play.
Yeah, correct. And we have seen a glimpse of it in the 2019 IPL, if I may say. So, yeah, so moving on, I think to one of the most settled squads, one of the most consistent and the most successful squads in the IPL history, the Mumbai Indians. They didn't have a lot to do in the auction, but they just went in for a few backups. And my word, did they have some strong backups in there. Like Nathan Kultanayan, having him back for a cheaper sum of money. The Adam Milne, James Neesham. It's like you associate Mumbai Indians with New Zealanders and the kind of balance they bring to the side, right? So these are the X factor players that are gonna play a huge role.
Yes, and you rightly mentioned Nathan Coulter-Nile. I think that was one of the finest auction strategies. A lot of teams missed out on this. They knew that Nathan Coulter-Nile was bought at a much expensive price last time, so they released him only to know that they're going to buy him again at a cheaper price. That way their purse gets bigger. Adam Milne, I think that was kind of expected, considering they wanted somebody. They always like to play with 2 foreign seamers. That's what the Wankhede pitch provides them with, and that's their comfort zone. So with Pattinson out with injury, they needed somebody to complement Bolt and Bumrah, and I think Adam Milne is a fantastic pick with his pace, especially on dead Indian wickets and a lot of other places apart from Mumbai. So Adam Milne, again, a great pick. Jimmy Neesham, I think that was a very interesting pick. He's definitely going to play the role of a backup at this point, but getting him for 50 lakhs is something phenomenal, especially with the likes of Kieron Pollard, who are growing with age, I would say. I mean, they're pretty old technically, but you don't use the word old in sport, do you? So I think with Mumbai Indians, what I really like about them is how they think long-term every single time. So maybe Jimmy Neesham is not for this IPL, but probably for like the next or even the IPL after that, when Pollard settles into a more of a mentorship role. So I think Mumbai Indians is one team that has the liberty to do that, unlike a lot of other teams like the CSKs and the RCBs who want the team to win this time. Mumbai can potentially have a team right now, probably has a team right now that will win if needed, but they're also investing in the future. And Arjun Tendulkar, I mean, you wouldn't imagine Tendulkar playing for any other team, would you? But that I think that was pretty obvious. Yudhvir Charak is a good pick. A lot of people don't know him. I think Marco Janssen. This guy, I mean, there isn't too much footage of him. There aren't too many stats about him, but he bowls quick, he bowls fast, and with the scouting talent that Mumbai Indians have. I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Kiran More once in Miami when he was touring here with the Indian team, and like just talking to him, the concept, the ideologies that the Mumbai Indians have, and the importance that they give to scouting. That's potentially because of the owners that they have, that they're pretty filthy rich in terms of the funding that's required. But the amount of importance that's given to scouting is immense, and I think Marco Janssen is something that will be a big thing going into the future. That's how they brought the Bumrahs and the Pandyas. I think Marco Janssen might be the next big thing in South African cricket.
Yeah, very well summed up. So yes, the scouting is so rich and so highly rated in the Mumbai Indians as well as the IPL circuit that we can expect a few of those youngsters even get a game in this season, wherein we can see what they are capable of. That's well. And one just interesting thing to say is, if you have Jimmy Neesham, you have the entire social media invested in you, don't you?
That is so true. That is very true. And that adds to the dressing room atmosphere point I was mentioning before. Like folks like Gales and the Pollards and the Jimmy Neeshams, they create a vibrant and a very positive atmosphere. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, correct. So that's how Mumbai Indians has always been, right? You associate with them with all these magnanimous achievements that they have, but there's one other team that you have similar associations with, and you generally tend to do that as well. So moving on to the Chennai Super Kings that we talk about, a team that has been known for reaching IPL finals, right? So with Mumbai Indians, you generally associate Chennai Super Kings to just be there around. Only once they did not qualify for the semi-finals, that was last year, but they would want to overcome all those miseries and come back and rise to the occasion. And I am not saying that I don't want more of MS Dhoni, but come on, this is probably going to be one of his last, or at least, if not the last, but one of his last seasons. So what do you think about the squad that they have built around? I know they went for a few other all-rounders as well in the middle, but overall they did manage to get a few others, right? Like the likes of Krishnappa Gautam, Moeen Ali, or even the highly rated test player of India, Cheteshwar Pujara. I think he also will have some role to play in that middle order.
Totally. And I think you summed it up well in a sense that CSK is the team that you probably will see in the playoffs, right, of the IPL last year. But last year was different. It didn't look like the same team. Raina was missing. I think if MS Dhoni is CSK, then Suresh Raina is like the backbone of that CSK. So Suresh Raina missing at number 3 was a big issue. Suresh Raina coming in now is going to play a big role for the Chennai Super Kings. Well, again, it depends on how his form is. None of us know. I actually follow him on Instagram. I've seen him practice, and he's actually timing the ball sweetly like he always does. But like we all know, net practice is different from match pressure. So let's see how it goes. But if Raina hits form, and now that Faf has given up South African duties, he probably can only focus on the IPL. It looks a pretty decent squad. I think they went a long way for Glenn Maxwell. They stretched a lot. Eventually, they lost to the RCB, which was kind of expected because RCB had a bigger purse. Sorry, but I think that was a blessing in disguise. In that one prize, they actually got 2 players who are really good and who offer you the same thing. The reason they went so much for Maxwell was to get the hitting ability as well as the off-spin option. Now because that happened, because they did not get Maxwell, they went for Moeen Ali. I think it's a fantastic pick. He bowls whenever you want him, whether it's in the power play, outside the power play, and he can bat anywhere, up the order, down the order, can be your finisher, the flourish that the CSK team was missing in the previous edition. Same thing with Krishnappa Gautam, very good off spinner, and also a batsman who can tong the ball big. And usually these spinners become a spinner and a half when they play under MS Dhoni's captainship. And especially at the Chepauk, we just have produced like a rank turner in the test match. That place turns, we all know. So I think all in all, they had a very nice auction. a lot of people don't really realize because they were kind of mellowed down and not the talked about team for once. But I think they have great balance in the lineup. If Ravindra Jadeja is 100% fit, Sam Curran, the kind of IPL he had last time, I think they're a formidable side.
Yeah, and we all are eagerly looking forward to Cheteshwar Pujara as well, right? So we there was a great applause when it came when he came onto the auction and Chennai bought him. And yes, he has some county commitments as well in there, but we do expect Chennai Super Kings to at least play him for a while, don't we?
That's actually very true. I'm glad you brought up the county point. So, like with Cheteshwar Pujara, I know he's always expressed openly and very frankly his want to play white ball cricket for India. And honestly, as a white ball cricketer, when it comes to ODI cricket, he's a really good player. He's had some amazing performances in domestic cricket. The issue with him in T20 cricket is primarily because of his slow starts. So now, if in that CSK setting they can get like a Sam Curran to open with Faf du Plessis, for example, or even an Ambati Raidu, and with Suresh Raina at 3, and if you play Pujara at 4. So now that's the issue where it comes. If you play Pujara 4, why would you want to drop Dhoni 5? Everybody has been wanting to see the Dhoni of the old coming in at 4, and then you always have the likes of Gautam, Moeen Ali, and everybody else to follow. And there's also Jagdishan in the middle. Now there is Ruturaj Gaikwad at the top, who did phenomenal towards the end. So I think there's going to be a problem of choices. I would love to see Pujara play in that 11, but it just seems a little difficult to me. And coming to that county point, if Pujara is not going to be playing in that 11, okay, for the first 3-4 games you don't play him, but if your opening combination strikes well and your batting order is in place, I would sincerely hope and request CSK to let Pujara go and play for Warwickshire, which is his county, because you never know, if he does well there, you might suddenly find the number 4 for the Indian ODI team, which we have been missing forever. I know Shreyas Iyer has played for a bit and stuff like that, but especially when it comes to Cheteshwar Pujara, is a very, very reliable person in that middle order. I think Pawan Suresh asked us a question. He says, can CSK perform better in the IPL? Well, that's a very interesting question. I think better than IPL 14 for sure. That was one of their worst tournaments, to be honest. Especially with Suresh Raina back, the balance that they have with Moeen Ali and Krishnappa Gautam in there now. And with what Ruturaj Gaikwad showed at the top of the order towards the end of that IPL, the spark that MS Dhoni talks about, I think this is going to be a much better IPL for the CSK team. One more question actually from Ahmed Akil. He says, are MI the clear favorites? That's actually a tough one for me, at least. Mumbai are always a formidable side. I will be surprised if they don't make it to the playoffs. They will surely make it to the playoffs. But I wouldn't say they are the clear favorites. There are a couple of other teams which have got some really good balance back. The KKR is not the same KKR it was. The RCBs are better. The CSKs are better. The Punjabs are better. I mean, there are a lot of teams. The Sunrisers are as stable as ever. So not clear favorites, but I would be surprised if they don't make it to the top 4.
Yeah, certainly that. So when we talk about the balance of the teams, one team that really went into the auction with a hope to take that balance and to maintain that balance was the Punjab Kings. We need to make sure that we call them Punjab Kings and not Kings 11 Punjab. That's for a start. So when we talk about Punjab Kings and the balance that they have brought in, let me quickly pull up the slide and just show you. So they went in with the bowling of Jai Richardson and Rayleigh Meredith, who I feel in the Big Bash have done a lot of good for their teams. But Big Bash and IPL are certainly two different ball games, aren't they, with the two different conditions that they play in.
Yep.
So it will be interesting to see how these big buys play with. They also went in with the likes of Shah Rukh Khan, the youngster from Tamil Nadu, who had done a lot of round in the domestic circuit before it in the Syed Mustaq Ali T20 as well. So Shah Rukh Khan is one player to look out for, and I think that the steal of the tournament was David Malan, wasn't he? So for 1.5 crore, the number one T20 the number one ranked batsman from the T20s, I think David Malan would be a great buy. And overall, the team now looks very settled. I think they are now starting to identify the 4 foreigners as well that they will be eager to play. So what do you think is Punjab Kings looking at?
Yeah, Punjab is looking good, probably better than last time, especially because of their bolstered bowling attack. Jai Richardson, I'm a huge fan of Jai Richardson. I've seen him bowl. I think he had one series in India as well where he performed pretty decently. He's got an amazing change-up, slower one. I think he's a bowler who bowls with a lot of heart. I've heard a lot of good things and seen a lot of good things about Riley Meredith. So I think that was a big issue for Punjab Kings. See, it's difficult, right? I always say Kings 11, but yeah, getting there for Punjab Kings because they didn't have the death bowlers. So I think this is going to be a great bowling attack now, which is something I wasn't comfortable saying last year with Punjab. Now coming to David Malan, I agree is the steal of the auction for like that cheap price, but I sincerely feel really bad for both David Malan and the IPL as well. We potentially would not see enough of David Malan. Assuming Chris Gale is the first default choice to play for Punjab in the top order, I think they will not fool around with Mayank and KL at number 1 and 2. So Gale coming in at 3 or Malan coming in at 3. You cannot play both of them because you have to play the 2 fast bowlers and Nicholas Puran. So I know people say it can be a toss-up between Gale, Puran and Malan, but I think Gale and Malan are more like to like. I still want to play Nicholas Puran, who can be my finisher with the Mandeep Singhs and the Deepak Hudas. So it's going to be interesting how they manage these players. I want to see David Malan play. I've seen him play across the world. The only place he hasn't really played is India. So if he's the best T20 batsman in the world, let's see how he plays in India. That's how I look at it. So a little unfortunate, but like with Gale and his age, we all know with his fitness, you probably won't play him for the entire IPL. So that's how David Malan potentially gets in. Or maybe like a lot of teams have done in the past, starting with the RCB, where you don't play Gale up front, pump him up, make him like go and do some Instagram videos saying, oh, you get me out on the field, and then he comes all guns blazing. So we don't know how it's going to go, but definitely a very balanced side and a lot of options to choose from.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. And one interesting thing is we will see a lot of David Malan before the IPL in the 5 T20Is against England, right? So yeah, that will set it up.
And that is that's going to do a lot of benefit to Punjab, because they will actually see hands-on live, like what is the current form of this person. He can be the best batsman in the world, but everybody goes through a purple patch and then a lean patch. So that's actually a big advantage for Punjab. That's very true.
Yeah. And now from the lands of Punjab, we just move to a little east to the to Bengal and the Kolkata Knight Riders that we talk about. I think they were one of the biggest plus from the auction. They had probably the best auction with the limited resources they have. Mind you, they didn't have a lot of balance, but certainly they did have a lot of they didn't have a lot of balance as per se, but certainly they did have a lot of players to bring, don't they?
Oh yeah, like I think for this IPL, if there's one team I had to pick who had the best auction, it would potentially for me would be Kolkata Knight Riders. They got Shakib Al Hasan for like 3.2 crores. I mean, if David Malan was a steal, this is equally a big steal. They also got Ben Cutting. I think that's a big. We all know how it works with Andre Russell and his fitness. This is almost a like-to-like replacement. You can have Ben Cutting give you those couple of overs when needed. He probably hits the ball longer than Andre Russell or anybody else in this competition or anywhere in the world. So Ben Cutting is a great. I still remember his innings in that final for SRH. So definitely Ben Cutting, a great pick. They got Harbhajan Singh. I think if you look at that entire squad, there's only one genuine off-spin bowler. That's Harbhajan Singh. So you never know if you want to play an off-spinner and Harbhajan Singh comes in with the mindset that, you know what, I'm going to come in and play and turn the game on its head. You know what Harbhajan is capable of. So, and when it comes to balance, I think Shakib Al Hasan included in that lineup adds a lot of balance to that side. I know a lot of KKR fans are ardent fans of Sunil Narine, but I think with Shakib in there, it gives them a lot more flexibility with playing Morgan, Russell and Cummins for sure. And then I would actually go ahead and play Shakib Al Hasan in place of Sunil Narine, primarily because when it comes to skill, Shakib Al Hasan has more skill, whether it comes to, for sure, when it comes to batting, but even with bowling, it's a very guily customer. Nareen has his own mystery, but I think Shakib Al Hasan should make the cut, which will give them the balance to play Shakib at 3. And so then you can open Shubman with somebody like a Rana, and one can bash and the other can hold guard. And then you will have Shakib at 3, Morgan at 4. And then you can have the Morgan, Russell, and Karthik at 4, 5, 6, which is the core. And they are meant to do that. You don't want to fool around with Karthik at 3. They did all that last time and it didn't work out. And it looked like a mess. They were a much better team than what they looked like last time because everybody was batting out of place and out of their style. So I think they have had one of the finest auctions so far. Oh, you can also play Rahul Tripathi. I feel bad for that guy. We all forget him and then he plays all over the place. So very interesting for me. I think they are one of the very strong squads with the reinforcements that they have got in this auction.
Right, and as you mentioned, Morgan, Karthik, Russell, it's a formidable batting lineup, isn't it? So when you look at it, it's we always associate KKR with the hard hitting powers that they have and the kind of performances that they can go. And this is certainly one season to look out for KKR, especially in the home conditions back now.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. And the best part is they've groomed the Indian fast bowlers and the Indian bowlers. Varun Chakravarti will surely play. They've got the Mavis and the Nagarkotis along with Prasidh Krishnas. So they've got a lot of Indian bowling in there. So you have the liberty to play all-rounders and batsmen who are foreign players because you have a strong Indian contingent in the bowling department.
Yes, and KKR had a lot of things to look at in the auction, even with the limited resources that they have. So from KKR, we move on to one team that didn't have a lot of things to do at the auction. Only a couple of players here and there. We talk about the Sunrisers Hyderabad next. So the Sunrisers Hyderabad, they had a limited purse and they just wanted 2 to 3 players, right? So they went in with key replacements. I think Mujib was one of the key, and now we are well qualified to call Sunrisers Hyderabad and Afghanistan lookalike, haven't we? So with all the 3 Afghanistanis back there, we have Mohammad Nabi, we have Rashid Khan, we have now Mujibur Rahman. I think there is a high chance, at least in one of the games, if the pitches are turning, we might see all the 3 playing. So what do you think there?
I hope there isn't a pitch where the ball is turning so much that you have 3 Afghan spinners playing. That is going to be a nightmare of a game for the batsmen. But potentially there might be a situation where they play 2 of them. Imagine opening with Mujib, and then by the time the power play is over, you have to face Rashid. Yeah, it's a nightmare. But one of the most balanced sides. I think if there is one team that you associate the word balance with, it has to be the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Like you said, there wasn't too much to pick. But just from that limited purse, look what they've got. They got Mujib, like you mentioned. They got Kedar Jadhav. I mean, I know he had a very poor IPL last time, but he's had some very good performances in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy and also the Vijay Hazare Trophy. I think he got like a 88 in 50 balls recently. I mean, with Vijay Shankar and all his injury issues, Kedar Jadhav is a solid backup for Sunrisers, more like a like-to-like, because even Vijay Shankar is not giving you 4 overs. He's potentially giving you 2. We don't know how Kedar's fitness is. He might give you a couple of overs if needed, but with Sunrisers, bowling is technically never an issue. They always have excess number of bowlers with the strong Indian bowling contingent again. So it's a very formidable lineup. You have to open with Warner. I think Bairstow might miss out considering what Holder did last time, and even Mitchell Marsh is going to be available as the all-rounder option down the order. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead with Warner opening with Vridhiman Saha because he's great at the top of the order. Then you have to, I mean, I would always play Kane Williamson in my side. Any format, anytime, any era of the century, you would pick Kane Williamson at number 3, Pandey at 4, and then followed by one of the all-rounders, Marsh or Holder. And then you have Priyam Garg, I guess. So you can kind of switch between Garg and Kedar Jadhav depending on what Priyam Garg offers you in terms of consistency. And then you have the bowlers with Rashid Khan, the all-rounder. So a very formidable lineup, very balanced side.
Yeah, certainly. So Sunrisers Hyderabad, I think they had their balance sorted, and the addition of Kedar Jadhav, as you said, is going to be a worthy one. It might add some pressure on Vijay Shankar and Abhishek Sharma, the 2 all-rounders in the side, but I guess that's a good pressure to have from someone like Kedar Jadhav. So that helps. And so we are left with just two teams now, two teams who have not been so into the mix for the last few years. So firstly, we talk about the Rajasthan Royals. The Rajasthan Royals have they went in with the auction with a huge amount of purse as well. Remember, they got some money from Robin Uthappa's transfer to CSK as well. So that money helped, and overall they went all out. They certainly went all out, didn't they? I think Chris Morris at 16.25 crores is a bit overpriced for his stature, but it was the dire need of Rajasthan to have that seeming all-rounder in place that probably forced them to go ahead. But having said that, we have all those Shivam Dubes, Mustafizur Rahman, Liam Livingstone that we know are capable of doing it big in the T20s. So, what do you think about Rajasthan Royals as a side overall?
I think this is the most difficult side to analyze. They're used to spending a lot of money off late. In the last few years, they did that with Jaydev Unadkat. Now they're doing it with Chris Morris. Not that I have issue with the money. The issue with so much money is that you technically always play that person uh, in almost all the games. That's what they did with Unadkat back in the day. Uh, no doubt, is a phenomenal player. Same thing with Chris Morris. But if Chris Morris doesn't strike or if he gets injured, I think it's going to be a big hit for Rajasthan. Their batting is kind of sorted with Stokes, Butler, Samson up there at the top. I think Shivam Dube at 5 is a very good pick. This might be advantageous for both Dube as well as the Rajasthan Royals. I think on Dube there was too much pressure at RCB because RCB was all about what do you do after Kohli and ABD, right? So it was all on Dube. But here that's not the case. Dube will actually have the platform to go all out and play his natural game. If Dube can do that at number 5, then you have the Chris Morris, Rahul Tiwatia, and Jofra Archer. I wouldn't say Archer is an all-rounder. The other two are all-rounders, but all three can tong the ball big. So they can get that flourish towards the end. So a lot depends on Ben Stokes' forms, Josh Butler's forms, which Sanju Samson will show up on the day, right? I mean, you have varieties of Sanju Samson that shows up on different days. So depending on which Sanju Samson shows up, they have a formidable batting lineup. Bowling is balanced now with Chris Morris. The young Karthik Tyagi will be in there. Shreyas Gopal is a good leg spinner to have. Tewatia. They also have Markande as a backup. Lomror, like Mahipal Lomror was good in a few games we played. They also have Jaydev Unadkat if needed. So I think they have the options. But I don't know, for some reason, I don't get that confident feel with this team, because I think it's a team that's built on players who are a lot of confidence and form players. If they get off to a great start in the first 4 games, with like a Stokes 80 or a Samson 100 or a Pfeiffer from Archer or something like that, it might be a different tournament for Rajasthan.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. So when we talk about you brought up an interesting point that which Sanju Samson turns up. I am not sure which Sanju Samson the batsman is going to turn up to the IPL, but I'm sure the Sanju Samson the captain will have a lot of role to play this year in the IPL.
That's an excellent point, actually. I'm glad you brought it up. We have a few sides now with young captains, Shreyas Iyer, and now here you have Sanju Samson. I kind of like that idea if they are willing to take that responsibility. I mean, Shreyas Iyer did a very good job the other day in the previous IPL. Same thing with KL Rahul. So it gives them that added responsibility, which can go either way. Some people benefit from that pressure and like bring the best out of them. So we'll see how it goes. It's an interesting pick. It's a brave pick by Rajasthan Royals. It's going and telling Sanju Samson, you are our player. We bank on you. We trust you. You'll be here no matter what. I think that is the level of confidence that has been missing in Sanju Samson's career when it comes to even international cricket representing India. He's never had that cushion of saying, oh, you go ahead, you can probably fail. So I don't know if that's going to do wonders for him or not, but if it does, it's going to be a fantastic year for Rajasthan Royals.
Yeah, certainly. So we are all eager to look at Rajasthan Royals, how they perform as a team. But one other team that we are eager to look out for, and we always associate them to be, we it's always associated that RCB, the Royal Challengers from Bangalore, have the settled team after an auction, but something just crumbles upon and they lose plot eventually. But having said that, this year RCB I think is again going in with a good team balance. They did have some risks. A few of them also paid off. I think Kyle Jamieson at 15 crores and Glenn Maxwell at 14.25 are okay. Are not, maybe not worth as much the prizes, but given the balance that they bring into the side, I think they would have paid any amount for them, right?
I think you addressed a lot of points. Let me come to the first one. The most talked about team always, the most hyped team, potentially the most passionate fans, very close to CSK, the CSK fans. I mean, you said a lot. Every time people say there is balance, to be very honest, this is potentially the first time a lot of people who know me at a personal level would agree to this. This is probably the first time I agree to the fact that this team looks balanced, because for the first time I'm seeing a team where I'm not questioning, hey, what after ABD? That question doesn't come to me, because okay, I know after ABD I've got the likes of Sachin Baby if needed from an Indian contingent. I've got Dan Christian, Kyle Jamieson can bat, and then of course I've got Glenn Maxwell. So that's when, even from an opposition perspective, you know you are not done if you get the Kohlis and the ABDs out. That relieves so much pressure on Kohli and ABD themselves. I think this RCB lineup, and I might sound cliche, but I think it is the most balanced RCB, from an RCB perspective, lineup when it comes to the last 4 or 5 years. They got to the semis, they even got to a final in the last one of the years, but that's purely based on few individual brilliances. I mean, 973 run IPL for Virat Kohli, that doesn't happen. That probably happens once in 50 years or something, right? So of course, I mean, this RCB side looks very balanced. You open with Devdutt Padikkal. Who opens with Padikkal? I think the buy in Mohammad Azharuddin is great. He's high on confidence. He's been spoken about. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. I mean, just to start the tournament, I would just throw the bat to him and say, okay, go out, play your game, be the basher that we want. Get us a quick 25, 30. Your job is good. If you get a 50 or a 70, even better. And then Devdutt Padikkal holds one end. Comes Virat Kohli 3, De Villiers 4, Maxwell 5, Christian 6, Jamieson 7. Man, that is some formidable batting lineup. They missed the flair towards the end. They missed the finisher. I think they've got all of it. With Dan Christian and Jamieson, they've got bowling options as well. And obviously, they've got Washington Sundar, Yuzvendra Chahal, the two spinners. Even when it comes, and then in the fast bowling department, obviously, they have Mohammad Siraj and Navdeep Saini. So I think they've got all bases covered. Sachin Baby is an interesting pick as well, because a good batsman in that number 5 position, or if needed, or 6 position if needed. So I think they have a lot of options now. They've used to run short of options a lot of times, but I think now this year they have a bunch of options, and it might actually work in their favor.
Yeah, precisely. So, did RCB make a good decision on buying 3 all-rounders this time? Glenn Maxwell, Dan Christian, and Suyash Prabhudesai we talk about. From my perspective, and it is coming from, it's not coming from an RCB fan, but it's coming from someone who knows, someone who looks at cricket and tries to make sense out of it. I think Suyash Prabhudesai is more of an investment than someone who you expect a return from.
Mhm.
But Glenn Maxwell and Dan Christian, it's often said in Australia and across the globe that the match is never over until Dan Christian is present at the crease. So Dan Christian has had the habit of winning titles, be it down under in Australia or in England or in places that he plays. He comes in with a lot of experience, though he's 38 now, if I'm not wrong.
Mhm.
But he's someone that has the ability to change the game on its head.
I agree with you. Of all the expensive buys that have happened, and of all the expensive buys that RCB have done, I think their best pick was Dan Christian. He comes across as somebody who's old, somebody who played for RCB back in the day but didn't do anything much. So I think that's a great question, Vaibhav, to say that first. Glenn Maxwell, I mean, you never know with Glenn Maxwell. His IPL record is really poor, but it's Maxwell, right? He might win you like 3 games. That's what you want him to do. If he can win you 3 games out of the 13 that you play, he's done his job. You got your money worth. But Dan Christian, very crucial. And I'm not saying this just because it's Dan Christian. I'm saying it in the context of this RCB lineup. For this RCB lineup, Dan Christian is extremely crucial. I think he's what Sam Curran is to CSK, or maybe a Hardik Pandya is to Mumbai Indians. I would go to that extent and say that's what Dan Christian is to the RCB. I hope they play him from the beginning. They like entrust that responsibility onto him, because he's a much mature person than what he was back in the day. And like you said, he's won titles across the globe. Winning titles and having titles under a belt is a completely different confidence level. You can ask Kyron Pollard that and he'll tell you that's the difference between him and a lot of other people. Chris Gayle has crazy 15,000 odd runs in T20 cricket, but how many titles does he have? That's what everybody asks. But Pollard has too many titles. So that's the thing with Dan Christian, and I think it's a fantastic pick.
Yeah, it certainly is. So this is a question to you coming from an RCB fan this time. Is this the year to say "Ye Sala Cup Naam De"?
I don't know. I mean, is it ever a year when you don't say "Ye Sala Cup Naam De"? Isn't it? Like every year I hear, one of my very good friends is an RCB fan, and he always says this at the start of the tournament, and I laugh it out. But this year I'll be careful to not laugh it out, because like I said, I believe this is a very, very good team they have. Okay, let me correct it. That's a very, very good squad they have. I think there is a huge difference between a team and a squad, because a team is the 11 players you choose to put on the field. You can screw that up as much as you want, but the squad looks formidable. So again, like, I think this is a good disclaimer to add. All the analysis that we did was from the point of view of the balance that the squad has and our potential 11 that we think would be a balanced 11. Now, what 11 they play on the at the end of the day, well, it's up to the coaches and the management and the support staff and all the think tank that is out there. But hopefully, if nothing crazy happens, but it always happens in the IPL. But yeah, if it doesn't happen, then we are in for a cracker of an IPL.
Yes, we saw all the eight squads today, and as Yash rightly put it up, I think it's one of those IPLs that we all look forward to. With also the T20 World Cup coming up, I am sure all the international sides themselves would be keen on making some great inwards there. So this overall is gonna the IPL is obviously gonna be played in India this time, and there's a lot to look forward to. I'm quickly gonna put you on a spot as we end. Who do you think are the clear favorites going forward?
No clear favorites for me. Well, that's a tough one. You already actually put me on the spot. But I think I will go ahead and name my top four, if I may. I'll go ahead. Sure. I'll go ahead with the Mumbai Indians, the Sunrisers Hyderabad, the Royal Challengers Bangalore, and one of CSK or KKR.
That is a great way to sum it up. So let's see if Yash's analysis and the predictions come true, or we have some new winners this time. But overall, it was a great session. Thank you, Yash, and I think we'll have more and more sessions coming forward, especially with the India versus England series also going on. I am sure everybody would be interested to hear about that as well. So until next time, this is me, Sumedh Naik, and Yash Khandor from ICN 360 signing off.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, Sumedh, and thank you for hosting this. Bye for now and take care.
I think it would just be good wicket. There's no price on it, so